Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Robin Lord Taylor. Excited that you're here.
Oh, no worries,
Your character, Penguin, on Gotham, who knew that it was going to transcend to be the guy for the show?
Well,
it's the centerpiece for this show.
I don't know about that, but it's been amazing, and it's just so gratifying to see the character like take on a new life. You know, like after many years of just sort of like, you know, being on the outskirts of like, you know,
right,
Gotham villainy. You know what I mean? Like,
and what a journey you've had. Because with the first season, everyone's like, "Oh, cool, Penguin's there." Somebody that everyone's going to recognize, while they bring in some of these other characters that people aren't going to be familiar with at all. So you have something there. You can, you know, like, okay, at least there's something that I understand and recognize. But then to become so crucial to everything in the story and to be sort of a centerpiece. I'll admit, I got to the point where if you're not in the scene or in the story, because there's multiple stories, I don't care. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing for Gotham, but it's just I got so drawn to the Penguin character that I was just like, wow, if he's not in this thing, I really need to focus on these other stories. Like when Aaron Richards' character is going, you know, batshit crazy and all that stuff, which is great, but I'm like, well, get back to the Penguin story so I can, you know, enjoy what I'm watching.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he's blushing. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to come on thick. I was just saying.
It's all right. Yeah, I don't know. I love the stuff they have me do in the show. The way they're taking the character is just, it's so gratifying. Every script I get, I'm like tearing it open, being like, oh my god, and mind blown.
It's like, yes, I'm not dead this week.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
No, and you've really done the character a lot of justice, especially in these, or I guess it's sort of an origin story for you, because not too much of the Penguin was explored other than the Michael Keaton Batman movie.
Right.
And of course the Adam West series had some Penguin in there, but to really go as far as with Penguin, usually everyone just defaults to the Joker. Like, there's a million different Joker stories, and very rarely do you get the Penguin or maybe the Riddler. But they've really done justice by this character with Gotham to say, we're going to focus on everything about power.
Yeah, and also just to treat it with the same gravitas that, which is not to say that it hadn't been treated that way with the Tim Burton film, but like it was a very stylized of the Penguin character. To see it treated this way with the same sort of gravitas that Joker character that, you know, well, obviously Heath Ledger, but the treatment that Chris Nolan had done with that character, like, right. to bring some of that real human pathos to this character, which had always been sort of comic relief in a way, you know, has been really gratifying. So right. I think like to find the psychology behind this guy is just been amazing for me, and then, you know, and hopefully for people who watch the show.
Tell me a little bit about when they announced Gotham and you know, some of the key players that were going to come on board as far as the show goes. The Penguin role, did somebody have you in mind, or did you just get it by auditioning?
I just got it by auditioning. It's crazy. I mean, the casting director, I had worked with Sharon Bialy and Sherry Thomas, had also cast The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad, and I had done 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, and they had cast me in that, and like, so I was on their radar, and they've been nothing but incredibly supportive of me, even when I had nothing going on. They had me in mind to bring me in for this in particular, but I don't think I was on Warner Brothers' radar at all. Like, I really didn't have that much going on when I got the audition. So I was like, okay.
When Gotham started, I was watching it with somebody, and the first person they said, because they don't know too much about the world, but when they saw the Penguin character, they said, he's not fat. And I said, oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I said, well, like maybe later down in the story, but I said he seems to have, he's got the look and he's got the sass, the attitude. And I said, you're not going to really see much of the cynicism in him yet until a little bit later. Right. But I was just so weird because everyone assumes the Penguin from the comics and everything being so fat, and then there's this, you know, this svelte young man that's coming in that you don't know, he's not too confident in himself, and then all of a sudden, like a switch just hits and he goes, I'm going to kill all of you, and I'm taking over everything.
I'm taking over everything. Yeah, it was. I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. Like, when I got this job, you know, it's terrifying. Like, just to be all of a sudden like everyone's talking, to going from like, you know, bobbing along, people sort of knew who I was from various things, but nothing compared to like when they made the announcement that I was going to play Cobblepot in Gotham. The biggest like blowback that I got was like on, you know, on social media was like, he's too tall and he's too fat, or he's too tall and he's too thin. That's what it was. And I was like, okay, these are two things that have never been said
You're
about
being
my entire yeah, exactly, totally. I was like, well, if this is the worst it gets, I guess I'll be okay.
You never hear that. You never hear something that the character's not fat enough.
Yeah, right, totally.
I can't believe this. I won't buy into this show.
It was so strange.
When you got the part, obviously it must have been like amazing through the roof. Like, oh my God, I'm part of this DC cast ensemble here that they're gonna launch. Did they give you any kind of projection or guideline as far as like, look, your character is this, and what we're hoping to do through the first season is to get you to this point here, so that you know as you're doing each episode, your end goal is to turn out as this?
Yeah, they give us like sort of the grand overview of where we're gonna go in the season, but as like in terms of like, you know, the episode to episode, like I could call and ask a billion questions if I wanted to. I actually prefer not to, because if I just like wait until I get the script, which sometimes isn't until like just a couple days before we start shooting the episode, it's so fresh for me that the experience that Oswald is having is as close as my experience too, because it's like this is all unfolding right away. I don't want to know too much. I don't want to project too much into the future, because Oswald doesn't know that. You know what I mean? Like, I like knowing like a grand sort of idea of where we're going, just so that I know like, okay, you know, maybe when we do this sort of stuff happening, it should be, you know, we should draw it with these colors, and then just so that I know that when we get to the big stuff at the end, it's going to be like that. Like that is enough for me to know. But in terms of like the actual like what happens next with that, like I prefer not to know at all, like until we're doing it, basically.
Another interesting with the Penguin is within this story for Gotham, they gave your character something that they usually only give to superheroes, not to the villains. They gave you mother issues and a parental complex, which is usually what fuels the fire for a superhero,
right? Yeah,
like, you know, Superman and Batman all have, you know, the mom issues. Did you see the movie?
Yes, I
okay,
did.
so
yeah.
No, the big Martha thing.
Oh yeah.
But to give one to a villain, that usually doesn't happen, because usually with the villain, it's some sort of you know, chemical spill or something that they were born not right in the head, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Never was based off a parent issue.
Right.
And they gave that to you.
Yeah.
That's so unique.
It's very unique. That's so true. Yeah. It's, you know, in a way there is, I really feel like it's like Gotham is about a million stories and a million characters, but one thing that I always come back to is the relationship between Jim Gordon and Oswald Cobblepot, in the sense represents the light and one represents the dark, and they're both sides of the same coin, and they both have this, you know, this connection, this relationship that we always keep coming back to, because again, that's the overall story, is how does Gotham City corrupt, and how does it create people who are villains needing to make inroads with people who are the heroes. And so I think that's part of it too, like giving Oswald hero generally goes through is part of that, to show, you know, it's all gray. There's no true good and no true bad here.
Because usually villains don't have that kind of weakness.
Right.
That's a very human weakness. A villain may have a fault in their superpower or in their organization or something like that. But for you to have a human weakness, because it was shown earlier in season 2, where not a spoiler to anybody, we're people, so go back and look. There's a part where Oswald's mother is kidnapped, and that's a superhero kind of thing. That's usually when you force a superhero to do bad things in order to, you know, prevent your mother from being killed, and that happened from a villain to another villain. So it was a very interesting dynamic to see how that played, even though I guess because the 2 theme is, you know, Rise of the Villains, but to see that kind of interaction between villain and villain was definitely a nice story to see.
Yeah.
Horrible experience for what was going on, but a nice story to see.
Yeah, yeah, and also like to see like it's, because also another thing that I love about our show that's different is like you have villains working against villains, as opposed to I feel like a lot of times in superhero land, the villains are going to team up and then go take down the good guys,
Right.
Whereas this is, oh no, there's interfighting on every level, on both, again, the good side and the bad side of things. I mean, it's like I just think that, yeah, that interplay, that constant like struggle for power, I think is just so fascinating, and again, yeah, and playing it from Oswald's perspective, like it was just like it was nice to see him. I enjoy it when he fails because like I feel like I
love because
yeah,
it's
really
a child. Fun. It's a child who, if you said, no, turn off the TV, it's time for dinner. When you stand there, silent internal rage, where you're like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Right, totally.
It's like he's a child having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then millions die.
Yeah, I know. And there goes, yeah, exactly, the West City or whatever. But,
does your mom ever see the relation of your character with his mom and then say, I never treat you like that, or you don't do that to me? I mean, where's this coming from?
I mean, I'm sure she's made like a couple jokes about that, down the road, but yeah, it's also so funny, and I say this to a lot of people where I'm like, like the worst people, if you're an actor, the worst people you can ask like their opinion on how you're doing are your close friends and your family, because they grow up with you, they watch you,
they know you.
They'll say things like, you don't say that, like you're faking, like you never do something like that, And so it's like my mom is like, she has a very healthy like distance because she's like, there he is doing this crazy
I did not raise you this way.
Yeah, right, totally. Yeah.
Let me ask you sort of some of the fan reactions to seasons 1 and 2, because season 1 very solid, but a lot of the fan criticism was that it seemed more of like a buddy cop show rather than focusing on the world of Gotham, and some people don't understand just because it's in Gotham. You're pre-Batman. Batman's not going to be here for a while. Stop looking for Batman.
Right.
Then season 2, they decide to theme it out and sort of change the structure a little bit, hoping that maybe it helps or it's going to build to something else with Rise of the Villains. So now this whole season has been mostly villain interactions, villains rising and falling, and again, the cops aren't the good guys in this show. Some of the cops are bad. Now they're starting to be good with some of the restructuring with Michael Chiklis coming in.
Yes, right.
And still focusing on villains. People still have a problem with that, and I'm like, when are people just going to be happy with this? You know what? Because Batman's not there, and Batman's not the quick fix.
Right. Exactly.
I'm really enjoying a pre-Batman era that leads to everything to get to that.
Right, and also it's just I think it's really what separates our show from a lot of the other fantastic representations of DC characters like the Flash, Arrow, all of that. Like, our show is a departure because it's really it's about the world. It's not about the singular hero. Like it's not about like the Flash, or it's not about Batman. It's about the entire world around it. People are never gonna be happy.
I know.
People, and that's great. Like, honestly, it's great.
It's almost like you have wrestling fans. They change it to accommodate, and then everyone's like, I don't like this either.
Yeah, right. Totally. No, it's. But all of you just step back and you're like, the passion is so fantastic, and people should feel ownership over these characters. It is American mythology, and also like, having done like a bunch of Comic-Cons now and talking to the fans and really seeing firsthand how these stories have changed people's lives, and people have, they've found themselves through these stories, through just the community around. They've built a community, they built friendships and relationships all around these stories, and it's like, they should, they should feel as strongly as they do about.
I don't think people should have ownership of as far as how they feel with it yet, because again, this is a prequel. You're not at the point where everybody recognizes where it used to start and where it develops to, where people feel ownership to it. You're telling a whole new story. A lot of this stuff is people don't know. These aren't in comics. There aren't origins to this. I don't want to say making it up as you go, but kind of are. You're writing it as the story progresses. So just enjoy what it is. Watch something new.
But also, like, if you're a real comic book fan and you've been reading Batman since 1982, say, like you will see, like as certain additions come in, certain writers come in, certain writers leave.
Right.
You will establish something for, say, the Penguin, like early on, and then it'll be a complete departure when you go, like 10 years
To a
later.
different origin story,
it's a different origins. Like, this is nothing new to the Batman world. And also, like, I like to say, like, every generation gets the Batman villains, the Batman stories that they deserve. Like, in the sense that, like, it's constantly being reimagined, readapted for, as time goes on. Like, it starts to reflect the times that we live in this really amazing way. So it's like keeping, like I think people should feel very strongly, but I also I would also encourage people to, like, relax and recognize that these are stories that are mutable, that change.
That we're in a time where you have all these superhero shows and movies and merchandise and all that stuff, because 10 years ago you didn't have this.
Right.
You have everything you could possibly want and more coming.
And it's embraced by it's embraced by everyone now, where it used to be such a niche thing, and like if you wanted to throw on a Robin costume and go to a convention, like even 10 years ago, that was looked at much differently.
Did you wear a Robin
now.
costume
No,
because your name's Robin?
No.
Did your mom well, your name's Robin, here's your costume?
I grew up listening to Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin Laid an Egg my entire life, so I could get farther away from it when I was a kid.
Oh, when they bring Robin, if they bring Robin into the story and his family, that circus, I hope you just go nuts. Like, this is for years of shit that I had to eat.
Totally. Exactly. When I meet that kid, yeah.
Like I said earlier in Gotham, you're a tentpole figure for me for watching. If you're there, I want to see everything you're doing. The other person on the show that I really enjoy is Sean Pertwee as Alfred. And now I'm a little biased because his dad was Doctor Who, but also he's really grown into that role where there's some people who've played Alfred and you're like, okay, they're playing Alfred, and then there's other people like, yes, that's Alfred. Seeing Sean Pertwee on the show at such a young age and having to take over the parental role of Bruce Wayne, you're like, wow, he really is Alfred.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just honestly one of my favorite performances on our show is. And also it's this great having been somewhat new to the story, is like introducing the fact that he was MI6, that he had this whole life as a assassin, killer,
kind of an important guy.
It's such an important person.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then also, so to tell the story of someone who had all of that going on and then stepped back and decided to become the caretaker for this family. It's like, I think that's just a fascinating story. And also, like, I think the way he pulls it off and his relationship with David Mazouz, who plays the young Bruce Wayne, I think all of it makes so much more sense, and it makes Alfred such a more dynamic personality, I think, which in a way that hasn't really been done before.
I only have a couple minutes left with you here. So the season finale, can you tell us what we have in store here for the finale? What are we going into?
We have Fish, Mooney, and Penguin getting back together. Maybe not in a positive way. Definitely not. But yeah, we have some. There's just an amazing scene tonight of Fish Mooney coming back into Penguin's life, and it's really the one thing I'm looking most forward to.
All right.
Yeah.
Exciting news a couple of weeks ago when they announced that season 3 was going to happen.
Yes.
In the midst of other networks saying, like ABC, we're going to get rid of everything but Modern Family and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Everything else is gone. CBS cut a bunch of stuff and it renewed a bunch of stuff. Gotham season 3 was announced that it was happening. Did they give you any outline as far as a theme or projection for season 3?
Not really. No, I mean, I did go in recently to the writers' room where they kind of gave me the overall arc of what next year is going to be. And I will say the one thing I'm really excited about and that I've asked for since the beginning is, I think it's most fascinating when these characters circle back into each other's lives, and if you're a fan of the show, you see how I think we're gonna have next year is just a lot more of that, where it's like alliances and Yeah, and conflict, which is the most exciting thing about our job.
And of course, more Penguin.
Yes.
Robin Lord Taylor, thank you so much.
Thank
Robin
you,
Lord
man.
Taylor on Twitter, send him some love, especially after the season finale.
Right on.
If you liked it, if you don't like, don't send him that stuff. But be happy that there's a season 3 coming, and Penguin is still going to thrive and probably be stronger than ever now that maybe there's a partnership. Who knows? And also, one last thing, I think the coolest thing from all of this is that you got your own figure. I think this is awesome.
My Funko Pop, yes.
I tell everybody that, I mean, I know you can make millions of dollars and win awards, but I think one of the coolest things to know that you succeeded in the business is when you have a t-shirt or a figure like this, because if I have one of these things, this is Christmas. I'm sending it to everyone in my family signed. And I'm putting their name on it so they can't sell it on
so
eBay.
So surreal, dude. I'll tell you that.
Isn't that great?
It's the best.
What did your mom think when you saw that?
I mean, she was like, okay, we have to get all of the grandkids things. I was like, okay, all right.
All right, Robin, I'm out of time. Come back for the beginning of season 3.
Anytime,
We'd love
dude. I
to
would
talk
love
and hang
that.
out with you, man.
That
This
would
has
be
been great.
fabulous.
Robin Lord Taylor on Twitter. Gotham season 2 finale tonight on Fox, 8 p.m. Check it out. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.